That's right. We're right here at Sharp Facets Gallery this afternoon. Yes, we're looking to help you make smoochable results. You just heard that in the ad. I just did that one a little while ago. Here we are this afternoon. I have an excellent guest for us here this afternoon. I met him up at the 60th anniversary of the Korean end of the Korean War, and of course Senator Tim Scott was having a ceremony. We met Mike Nanney. He is the commander of the Sons of the American Legion, and he's on the board of directors for the Ride Home. I thought y'all would be fascinated to hear some of the things that Mike Nanney has done. He started out as a teacher, actually went into journalism, became a teacher, and retired 7 or 8 years ago, and has been enjoying life down here in the Carolinas. Was originally up there in New Jersey.
Please forgive me.
That's right. And now he's enjoying life actually living outside of Rutherford, North Carolina. Welcome to the show today, Mike.
Well, thank you, Ann. It's really good to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. You know, when we met you, you were up there with a POW flag, and let's see, Bill Funches was the keynote speaker at the ceremony for the Korean War vets, 60th anniversary, and he had been a POW. And one of the things that I know that you have done is gone all over wherever you could find a Korean War veteran, POW, and had them sign the POW flag.
Yes. It's a Korean War flag. And I found it a couple of years ago up in Pennsylvania, and I asked a Korean POW, what should I was going to give it to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, oh no, I fly one flag, and that's his American flag. And he said, why don't you just keep it? And he suggested the autographs, the signatures.
So that's how that started.
That's how that got started.
Wow.
And I've been going around and seeing people and having them autograph it.
Wow. Now, how many names have you gotten on that so far?
About 30. But the first time I hung it, I hung it in Americus, Georgia. It has a soldier running up a mountain, and I hung it by the end. So it looks like he's running downhill. So I asked the guys, what do you think of the flag? And they said, Mike, we never ran downhill.
It's always uphill.
So I had to get up, undo it, and rehang it. So.
Now, you have been, in the last, 7 or 8 years, become passionate about our veterans, haven't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you came from a military family. Your dad was in World War
II. He was a Marine stationed in Pearl Harbor after the bombing.
Wow. And, of course, but you didn't actually serve.
No.
You just became very passionate about this. What do you think made you so passionate, Mike?
Well, I had two very loving, patriotic parents, and they just always raised us that way. I can remember my dad was a cop, and after he was married and lived here in the States, and I would help him hang the American flag at the park every morning. I could fold the American flag when I was 8 years old.
Wow.
Which has served me very well when we've done a couple of funerals here and somebody needed help folding the American flag. But I had 3 uncles decorated for Normandy and the Battle of the Bulge.
And you said you didn't learn that until very much later in life.
Yeah, my last uncle was on his deathbed, and he said, oh, by the way, you might want to know this. And none of us knew it.
But, don't you find that amazing? The World War II veterans particularly, I don't know World War I, but World War II, they didn't talk about it much, did they?
A lot of the veterans don't. And that's where the Ride Home has really blessed me. I've been around and I've learned to shut up and just listen to their stories, and over the time of the last 6, 7 years, they've been more comfortable with talking to me. And I've heard many, many more stories than I would have ever heard.
Do you think because they're older and their time is coming close? Do you think that's part of it?
Some of it, yes. And when they're sitting around with their buddies and they're talking and telling stories, and if you just sit there and shut up, you'll hear, And we did one of the POWs from Korea had a stroke, and he went to the hospital, and we took 3 other POWs with us to go visit him. And they had been in different camps in Korea. And it was so interesting because they go, oh, do you remember when we did, how about this one? And I didn't have a recorder.
Oh, what a pain.
Oh, man. So I came home, I bought a $200 recorder, and I'm going to get these stories now.
Absolutely. Well, I went on an honor flight a year ago in May, and they would all say to me, "Radio lady, I've got a story for you." It was so much fun, and they just shared so many things that they might not have shared if they weren't in this big group.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you've been doing the POWs for Korea. You've been honoring them by getting them to sign the flag, and what else are you involved in? You're involved in several organizations.
I am. I'm a member of the Ride Home, and I've been a member of the Ride Home, not as a board member or just as the photographer for some 6 years now. My wife and I and my best friend Bill Perner, we would go and we'd take all the pictures and then we'd post them for on Picasso.
But how did you get involved in the Ride Home? This is an interesting story, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Some 7 years ago, I was a member of Rolling Thunder, South Carolina Chapter 2, and we got a request for donations for the POWs. We didn't have much money, so we sent them a $50 check, but we felt guilty that we didn't know more. So we decided the next year we were all going to go down. And we went, and that's where I met...
And this is in Georgia.
Which is in Americus, Georgia, and Andersonville, Georgia. And I met some POWs here, and we were so excited that when we rushed home, some 8, 9, 10-hour drive to a meeting that we had on that Sunday, and it started off that we were... you had the president's report, you had the treasurer's report, but it's the treasurer's report about Andersonville. We're going to do this. It would be, we'll have a moment of silence for the POWs in Andersonville. And it just kept going. It was so important to us that we make a connection and get everybody else to get involved. And from that point on, that chapter got so involved that one year they actually got an award for being one of the top fund gatherers in the country. I think they got 14 people that they sponsored by their labors.
And these were veterans that you sponsored. Right. Now, one of the things that you told me is that when we were talking about a lady who was a POW Auschwitz survivor, and you said you just couldn't take the stories.
Well, the one woman that the story about that, we were in Andersonville my first time, and it was a survivor from Bataan. And she was 13 years old. And she was the first POW I met in Andersonville. And she started telling me the story about what it was like to be a civilian and being held by the Japanese. And the tears were just rolling down my cheek as she was talking. And then she started telling me about how her mother warned her what she could expect. I literally collapsed on the sidewalk crying. And my wife and my friends came running up to me to go, "Mike, what's the matter? What's the matter?" I said, "Stop her. I can't take the story." I met her again another year. She was having difficulty in her marriages, and she had been married a number of times. And the one thing that they were doing is they were, as they would get off the bus, they were on us. They'd get off the bus at the museum. We would take them to a certain place in the auditorium, and they were asking her name, and she would give her name, and they couldn't find it. And I'm a photographer, so I'm down in a crouched position, and I'm taking pictures, and I can see she's getting, "We'll try this one." And she's getting more and more upset, and more anxious, and finally I get to the fourth name, and she was just so distraught, and I said, I got up, I went and put my hand on her, I said, "Try girlfriend." And she looked and she recognized me, and I escorted her. I knew where she had to go, to the Bataan section.
Right.
You know, and that was me saying back, giving back to her for, being so kind to me and telling me her story.
Sure. Wow. These are the type of things that just really can make a difference in somebody's life, can't they, Mike?
Yes.
Yeah. And if you get involved with our veterans, there are so many ways to help our veterans from a civilian perspective. Sometimes we think that the government, but there's so many other things that common everyday people can do.
Absolutely. Just this weekend, I've done the Missing Man Table ceremony twice. I've helped hang the flags on the highway, on Highway 9. We put up flags at the cemeteries to mark the markers of servicemen and women. I've escorted veterans to the hospital, taken them to the hospital, taken them to church, gone to the grocery store for them. I mean, there's so many things you can do.
Absolutely. Well, we are here with Mike Nanney. We are going to be right back. Don't you go away. You're listening to WCRS. Hey, if you've got a question for Mike, don't hesitate to give us a call. 229-7984. That's 229-7984. Oh, that's right. We're right back here, Sharp Facets Gallery on the 72 bypass. Yes, I'm Ann Eller. Yes, we're talking with Mike Nanney here this afternoon, talking a lot about veterans and how you can get involved or how you can remember the stories. You know, the thing about stories is if they're not written down or if they're not told, nobody will know them. And that's why I think it is so important to be able to tell the stories.
Yeah, and there are some stories that when they tell you, they don't, a lot of the POWs publish books. Glenn Fraser, Hell's Guest. But he didn't put in all the blood and guts, the
Right.
real experience.
Sure.
But if you come to Andersonville, you can talk to him. You can hear, he'll tell you stories that aren't there. And he's good about seeing if there's children around. So he doesn't say something that would be harmful for their ears.
Right.
He's good, and they're all like that. A good friend of mine, Nat Henry, from a Vietnam POW. Nat, there's a guy. He sounds just like my brother Joe, and he knows he sounds like my brother Joe. So when he calls, he baits me. He'll talk for 2 minutes to see if I can figure out if it's
who you're
him.
talking to.
And when he gives it away, he starts laughing. And I go, Nat, he's a great guy. But he's got stories, too.
Sure.
He was in Hanoi Hilton with Senator McCain.
Wow.
Yeah.
So some unbelievable stories here. But you know, one of the things you were telling me, Mike, that you tell every veteran that they should have their DD-214 posted so that their family doesn't have to go through the trying to find it or scare it up or whatever. And that's because why?
Well, when a veteran passes who has had an honorable discharge, okay, they are entitled to the gun salvo, the casket flag, an honor guard that would remove the flag, fold it, present it to the family, taps being played. But a mortuary can't arrange that if they don't have a DD-214 in their hand. So what happens is the service people, they'll pass, and it's in their wallet or stuck in a closet someplace.
Sure.
Yeah.
Not something you actually need every day.
Right, and the family goes nuts trying to, because they know, well, Dad was this, Mom was that, but they can't prove it. And I had to do 2 funerals here in the last 2 years where the family couldn't find it, and we were able to get a coffin flag and do the ceremony ourselves and present the flag to the family.
Wow. And that meant a lot.
It
It meant a lot to the family.
It sure did.
You know, and a lot of this stuff, it does mean stuff to the family. You know, it may not to the person that has passed, but it does mean it to the family a lot to be able to have this. So it's important that if you know that you would like to do this for your loved one, that you make sure that you have that DD-214. I didn't realize you actually needed that to be able to have those things.
Yes, and those guys that were in World War II, seeing that DD-214 didn't come out until late in World War II.
Okay.
Okay, so, but they did have honorable discharge papers, and those
are
will
the
work
same
as
thing.
well.
Sure. Okay.
So they can do those. And my father's a perfect example of that.
So, what would you like people to know from what you've been doing and working here and everything? I met you up there. I was fascinated by what you had to tell us when we were up there that day. I played some clips on the radio after we came back. But what would you like people to get out of all of this?
You know, the POWMIA flag says, "We will not forget." We will not forget what? People don't know what is it that POWs went through? What was their experience? They don't know that they had faith in 2 things: that American flag and God. And
And when you're stripped of everything else, to hold on to those beliefs is pretty awesome.
It's remarkable. And
Yes.
you can't be around a POW without having that patriotism just come to you. Or the religious part, the faith, or their faith that they will get me, I will go home. And it's just remarkable. Father Chapin, the Franciscan monk, who just got awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor posthumously. All the POWs from Korea, where we were at the Armory, they were talking about Father Chapin. He gave his clothing away. I mean, they had nothing anyway. I mean,
Right.
and he was giving what he had away. He went around and found metal in the POW camp and beat it into pans so that they could boil water because dysentery was so bad. And he gave water to the other POWs. And when they were going to shoot a POW, he went over and he grabbed a gun and pointed it to his chest and said, "Me first." I mean, those are stories, yes, but that faith, that belief is just so awesome. And I want people to experience hearing those stories from the source. Go to these, to Andersonville and America's, meet World War II POWs, because they're not
Very
here.
many.
The Korean POWs too. In fact, this year will probably mark the last Korean War anniversary, the convention, because there's just not enough of them left anymore to meet. And even at the Vietnam POWs, they're, with Agent Orange and the PTSD, they're suffering too, and they're falling. There's not that many. We have one we got to bring home now, Bo Bergdahl. He is the only living POW who's still being held captive by the Taliban. 4 years this last June marked his 4th year anniversary. He's still there, and I got to meet his father, Bob.
Is that the one they just transferred to another prison? Is that
No,
him, or
we
is
don't
that
know where he is.
Okay.
And the Taliban has been trying to negotiate different things. $10 million one time, change of 10 POWs for one. But the Geneva Convention is strict on it. It says a one-for-one trade. So if you're hearing that Obama can negotiate, no, he can't. Congress signed the Geneva Convention. By law, he is bound to follow that rule.
By law.
By law.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm from Missouri, show me.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. But that's what makes it so frightening, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It does. And the fact that they endured and they came home, it's like hearing the stories of that Bill Funchess there and what he went through, and he didn't even realize he had been considered a war criminal. He was not a POW, he was a war criminal.
Yeah.
And when they told him that to go down that little path from where he was to across the border, I guess, and don't go left or right, stay on that little 12-inch path or whatever, to do that and have blind faith that everything would be okay after what he had been through was unbelievable.
Yeah, and there's T.J. Martin, who's the president of South Carolina's POWs. He was a POW twice.
Wow.
They were captured, and he and another guy convinced the Chinese to let them go because if they kept them, they would only slow them down so many were wounded. So they let TJ and another guy go, and sure enough, they got recaptured.
Oh, my God.
Okay, the rest of the guys that were wounded, the Lions caught up, they were free. TJ spent the next 2 years and 3 months, a second time as a POW, and
at least he knew what was going to happen. I mean, what a horrible thing to go
and
back
that these
to.
guys don't get their Purple Hearts. That's a sin. No teeth, shoulders broken because of the rifle butts hit in, or their necks, their arms, and because there wasn't a doctor there, or their CO had been killed, there's no proof that they deserve a Purple Heart. And so they're having to literally jump through hoops to try and see if they can get the Purple Heart.
And they don't want to ask for the Purple Heart.
No.
I think that's the other thing. I know I wouldn't. Well, that's what I did. Okay. If somebody else gave it to you, that's one thing. But to have to ask for a Purple Heart, that should never be.
And you've talked to them. They say to you, not me, those that got left behind, they're the heroes. Not me.
Right.
And I'm going, what? Bill Norwood, founder of the Korean POWs, he found a guitar that had 2 strings in it, and he used to serenade the camp at night. 2 strings, one in tune, and would sing to them. He's a hero. I mean, in all those conditions, and to care about your brothers that much, that's a hero.
It is a hero. And those are, they call them what, the unsung heroes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was doing the singing.
And I met Bill at Andersonville. And he introduced me to a number of other people. And actually, he took me down to Charlie Daniels. He introduced me to Charlie Daniels. So that was
there's somebody that's really involved with all our veterans in POW. Hey, I tell you what, we're going to join South Carolina News in Progress. I'm Ann Eller. We'll be back. We're here with Mike Nanney. If you want to give a call, 864-229-7984. That's 229-7984. Fascinating stuff. Don't you go away.
Arg, are you a pirate or a pack rat? Do you have a vacation of a lifetime sitting in the attic? Or a college tuition hung on a wall? Or is a fabulous retirement hidden in your jewelry box? Bring those items to Sharp Facets Gallery. We can establish value and buy from you or sell for you. And so ends another chapter at Sharp Facets Gallery, 72 Bypass, and on the web, sharpfacets.com.
That's right. We're right back here, Sharp Facets Gallery. We've just been talking off the air. I've been talking with Mike and the American Legion, and of course, the American Legion up there in Spartanburg has become a very active organization in the last 5 or 6 years. What do you attribute that to, Mike?
Two come to mind immediately. Jack Wright, the commander, awesome man, and an awesome leader. His predecessor, Stuart Taylor, whose brother is Clayton Taylor, who was a Korean POW. These 2 guys are just awesome leaders. And I had the pleasure recently of meeting Robert Shearer, who's the 4th vice of the state. I mean, these guys are real leaders, and they just motivate you to just want to do more.
Yeah. I think, one of the things that we were talking about is with the VFW and the American Legion, all of this, we end up with a lot of older guys. We need more younger guys that have served to become parts of these organizations, don't we?
Yes, we do. And I was so glad they have an initiation ceremony. It's not an initiation, probably a bad choice of words, where you're brought into the American Legion. Okay, and there's a ceremony for it. It's not a secret organization or anything like that.
It's not a secret handshake or anything. No.
But there was like 3 or 4 guys that were there from Afghanistan.
Wow.
And that's
that's a young guy. Yeah.
And they wanted. They heard about us. They wanted to be a part of us because we are a moving organization. We're doing stuff, and that makes you feel good.
Sure, exactly. And that's what I think a lot of these organizations could really use, would be some younger people on board. Right, Grace? Thank you, Grace.
2 cents for POW.
That's yeah, Gracie. All right, let's be quiet here. We're trying to have a serious conversation, Gracie. All right, so Mike, what other things? How do people get involved and help with the veterans? I know your organization, and I know your wife has a lot to do with what goes on with the veterans.
She does 2 loads of laundry every day.
2 loads of laundry?
Every day.
You change your clothes that much?
Oh, God. So she goes to all the Salvation Armies, to churches, to habitats, and she buys the used clothes. She cleans them, hems them, and then like the stand down we just did. She's the only civilian organization that was out there with clothes for the veterans.
And what's the stand down?
The stand down we just did that. There was 370 needy veterans from 11 counties that met in Spartanburg, and we fed them breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We got them clothing. There was a dentist. There were several dentists there. Free dental care. They got a free haircut. They got a shower.
Wow.
But it was for the veterans. And Brenda,
You see a lot of homeless vets, don't
yes, and it started off that we were saying for the homeless vets, but there are a lot of needy vets.
Mm-hmm.
So we said homeless/needy, and that's what we've been doing. And Brenda's been very, very active. I mean, my closet or my garage is so full that I had to move my vehicle. I couldn't park there.
You can't park in your garage
No.
anymore.
So, she's heart bigger than she is, and people will call and say, "I got clothes." You know, my husband outgrew this,
Right.
or there was a death in the family. Would you let me take all these clothes? And we'll go get them. So
But this stand down, now when was it?
this was a month ago, and it was, I'm trying to think, September 14th and through the 17th. It was only one day, but it took us 3 days to set up, and we've been meeting for a year in planning it. And the American Legion has been very, very active in serving on the committees, the planning committees, even driving the buses and going to pick up the homeless veterans, bringing them in, going to churches and asking for help, those kinds of things.
So this is something that you do in Spartanburg. Now, is this done around the country, or is
Oh,
this
yes.
kind of...
Dr. Craig Burnett actually came, I think he was originally from Florida, and he talks about having done stand-downs all across the country. And so he brought an expertise to us that obviously we needed. And what a guy, a real, he's a soldier himself, or was a soldier, and rides motorcycle. And when you see him and you find out that he's a minister, you go, wow, and you ride a motorcycle. What a guy.
Well, the Pope got given one.
Yeah.
He didn't write it. I guess he donated it and they auctioned it off, but hey, still. So other things that, here in Greenwood we have a homeless veteran center. In fact, one of the things that the VFW, the women of the VFW do is they put together a laundry basket when they actually get someone graduating, I'll say, from living at the Kynard house, and they give him all the things to be able to start a household. And, that's a really nice thing.
It's a great thing. Church just yesterday donated pillowcases and that to the Wounded Warriors, and they gave that to us to present to them. You talked about a homeless shelter. There's a homeless shelter in Spartanburg. They had a handicapped accessible front door, not wheelchair accessible, but handicapped accessible, and no regress. Golden Thunder, American Legion, DAV, the Military Order of the Purple Heart, we all went together, did some donations, and got a grant from Home Depot.
Wow.
Built that ramp, and we helped supply the labor too. I mean,
Right.
I'm the youngest of the group. I'm 64 years old, and we're out there hammering and nailing and cutting and carrying boards. Okay, but we built that handicap ramp for that shelter. And Home Depot, God bless them, they're a great group. They came back and planted trees and bushes around to add some extra flavor to it.
Right.
So people can do those things. You see the signs for the organization. Get involved. I'm not a veteran, and yet I'm helping out these veterans organizations. I don't have the only license in this. People can do this.
Just takes really getting involved and a desire to help. And it's a very, very worthy organization, because after all, these guys, they were POWs, or they served our country, both. But they are the ones that make it so that we are what we're able to do today. And what you and I are able to sit right here on the radio and talk about whatever we want to talk about.
Yeah.
So it's really, really important. And these are your opportunities. The women's women's of foreign wars. We had her on last week. Tremendous amount of things that they're doing, and the things that they do not only for our veterans but for our young people. Teaching our young people about the things, whether it's the folding of the flag, or what the proper way is to put the flag up, bring it down. All these type of things are things that if we're not careful, we're going to lose these things. Isn't that right? Don't you think, Mike?
Those are such significant. What do you do with how do you render honors? You see these guys saluting and not saluting and putting a hand over their heart for the national anthem when they're playing it at racetracks. Believe it or not, a lot of the veterans don't realize that they don't need a hat. They don't even need to be dressed in a nice shirt that to salute. When the national anthem is played, or when a casket is coming by, a caisson with a flag on it, they can render honors. There was a Marine here. We were doing a veteran that came home from Afghanistan. Okay, and the Patriot Guard Rider captain, row captain, came through and he said, "Veterans, when that caisson comes by, render honors." And the Marine was standing behind me. He says, "Oh, I didn't shave this morning. I need a haircut. I'm just wearing a T-shirt. I'm uncovered," meaning not wearing a cap. And I turned to him, and I walked up to him, and I pinched his T-shirt, and I said, "This does not define you. You're a Marine. You may salute. You served your country. You may salute. And I will stand right next to you and salute with you." And when that caisson came, he snapped too. And it was like, he didn't know that he could show the world he was a veteran.
Absolutely.
And we need that. We need all those in the stadiums. Stand. Show how many of you are veterans.
Absolutely. How many times do you go where they're having a special veterans ceremony and they play the music to each division of the armed forces, and of course, and you see them, and then when you see all of them standing there at once, tremendous amount.
Yeah, that's moving.
It
is very moving.
Absolutely. Well, we are here with Mike Nanney. We're talking about how the little things that we can do to get involved to help that could turn into big things if you let it snowball and help out. But our veterans deserve it. Our veterans are precious, and our veterans are the people that we're talking about today because we want to salute them. Hey, we'll be right back. Don't you go away. That's right. We're right back here, Sharp Facets Gallery. If there's one thing we have learned today out of all this conversation is, veterans, please have your DD 214 so that your family can honor you the way they would like to honor you, and that's by being able to do the special honors and the flag draped casket and these type of things. They need to have that in order for the funeral home to be able to get this done for you, right?
Right.
And that is something that I didn't know, but that's a good piece of advice. Now, when we talk about the ride home, National POW Day, September 17th.
Every year, we've done it 13 years now. And we are a 501c3. We do take donations, but I'm not asking you to donate. I want you to come. Come first. Come see what it's like. Then you go home and you decide what you want to do. You'll probably go to your organization. You'll go to your church. You'll tell them, "Oh, I saw this. I talked to those POWs, and they talked to me." Or the MIA families. It's not all about just POWs.
Mm-hmm.
There's the families of those who did not return.
Sure.
Meet them. We had some 20 there this year, 20 families.
Now, how many people are there at this organization, at this National POW Day?
Well, this year we had 80 POWs and about 20 or so MIA families. Last year we had over 153.
Wow.
But what's happening, they're dying.
Sure.
I mean, World War II guys, not many of them around. And the Koreans, they're falling too, and of course, we talk about Vietnam and all the Agent Orange and the cancer that's been taking them. It's, the numbers are going to get to the point where we're not going to have a POW. But we still need to remember them. We still need to show that in our schools and tell our kids about what it was like. War isn't free. And it
pays a very big price.
Yes, and it costs so much. And we need to know those things.
Do you think our children need to know those things, Mike? You were a teacher. You were a middle school teacher.
Yes, and I think they do need to. I mean, do you need to?
Is it outdated information because it was in the past? It's history.
No, I don't think so. I think all the things you're seeing on television now, where the fathers and the mothers are coming home and they're surprising their kids at schools and ballparks and whatever. I think that the country needs to see more of that. They need to know, and our children need to know. Hey, mom and dad are over there, and they might. You hear all the stories that maybe they're not in a safe place. They need to know that. And next time you don't give homage or, salute the flag or put your hand across your heart for the Pledge of Allegiance, give it a thought. somebody did an awful lot for you so that you could do that. And you need to at least honor and say thank you to them and respect them. We talked a minute ago, there's another salute. And of course, on radio, you can't see this. Okay, but there's a salute where you put your hand across your heart and you pull it away. Okay, that's a thank you salute. When you see a veteran, thank them.
Well, a lot of people think they don't want to hear it. And so many times veterans say, oh, it was just a job, it was nothing. You know, I always like to thank our veterans, but you do hear that a lot when you say that.
And it's so neat. My grandchildren, they'll see a veteran's cap. We've taught them because they know we're going to go over, and my wife and I are going to thank them. They'll go, Papa, a hat.
Right.
So, you know, they know that that's a military person, that's a veteran, and we need to give them special recognition.
Absolutely. But that shouldn't dissuade somebody because sometimes they say, oh, it was nothing, it was a job. They still, I think, deep down inside appreciate it. You know, even though they don't verbalize it or they don't show it.
And how many of the, certainly Vietnam and Korean, if we see that they have a Vietnam hat or a Korean or something, and you go up to them and just say to them, welcome home. So many veterans will start crying on you right there just because you said welcome home, because they came home and there wasn't a welcome for them.
True. That's true.
And just those heartfelt words, and it moves them. I didn't do this for naught. My friend didn't die for nothing. You know?
Well, you know, we can't even describe what happened to so many guys over there and what they went through and what they saw and how unprepared they were for what they saw.
Yeah.
I mean, that is for sure. So thank God we have people that do sign up to be part of the military and want to go overseas and want to protect our country. But all of them, whether they're young or old, they all need that thank you.
Absolutely.
Mike, I know you've talked about how your wife has all these clothes and she washes and she has things prepared. Any other things that you would like people to know? You, of course, have gotten the riders, the motorcycle riders. I mean,
Legion Riders, yes.
Yes, I mean, you have I'm sure you have a good time doing that, and of course, you also have worked with the Vietnam Wall,
Yes.
helping do that and this type of thing. And you actually took your skills as a teacher and have turned it into a great retirement. Yeah. Did you ever think when you moved to North Carolina that these are the type of things you would be doing?
Not a chance.
What did you think you'd be doing?
I thought I'd be putting in a garden. Of course, then we had a drought the first few years we were here, so that went literally went south.
So, right. Yeah.
But no, I never thought for a moment I'd be doing what I'm doing right now.
And I guess it's brought a whole different element to your life.
Absolutely, and my wife is, and it's just so remarkable. I mean, when the phone rings and you recognize the voice of that POW on the other end, Art, their wife. It's just a feeling, you know. You feel very special that you know you've done something to help.
Sure.
You know, you can't put a value on that. It's just such a heartfelt feeling, and people can do it. You know, like I said earlier, I don't have the license on this. You know, you don't have to fill out any credentials or take a sworn statement or anything. Anybody can go out there and volunteer to help food, feed them, going to churches, and Thanksgiving's coming up. Go to the church, volunteer to help. You know, you see, like on 9/11 when we waved the flags over the bridges. Stop, get a flag, wave it.
Right. There's all kinds of things you can do, and that is, we just opened here in Greenwood a Hall of Heroes museum that is going to be taking in things. South Carolina is very blessed, or maybe not, that our history goes back all the way to the Revolutionary War and forward. So we have a lot of opportunity to have some great exhibits, and yes, Sunday it was opening day, and it was a great turnout for it, and a lot of our veterans were there. And we had volunteers helping out there, sharing the stories, and I think that's a wonderful thing.
It is, and I really appreciate what you're doing. I mean, you're getting the word out there all the time. You know, I have a limited audience, You're doing quite well.
Well, I like to get the stories out, and I like to share, and I like to be able to maybe inspire somebody to think of something that they hadn't thought of before. So if we
Thank
can
you.
do that, well, thank you very much. And Mike, I know that you brought some pictures with us, and of course, over your service here, you have been getting all these the POW flags signed. What's that hat that you brought with us? The helmet.
Well, about 7 years ago, I met a POW from Korea. His name was Lester Ty, and he went to ride in his own escort. Well, he needed a helmet, so I lent him mine. Well, I couldn't go home.
Talking about not being able to go home, Mike.
Yeah, and so my wife and I looked for him for 3 days, and my wife finally found him with a silver pen and had him autograph the helmet.
And then asked for it back?
And I got my helmet back. And the other name on here is Dallas Mussman. He's a Korean POW. And you can see his name is twice as large as anybody else's on this.
Yeah.
That's Dallas. And on the last one is a World War II's, his wife, Carol. She needed a helmet. Her husband was riding on a motorcycle next to it, so I gave her this and she signed it. But to thank me, 1 year later, Lester Todd gave me this brown bag with 2 mason jars in it.
What was in those mason jars?
I don't know, but it's still sitting on my bar. I do know. It's still sitting on my bar
Moonshine,
downstairs.
baby.
Yeah. It was potent. Oh.
Well, you know what? It's the stories and the fun, and that's what defines us in the end, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does. And so we've got to help create memories, and we've got to help those that need help. You know, that's just what part of our life is about. And we should be doing it for our veterans, for anybody that needs the help. But our veterans gave so much to us, and sometimes we have a tendency to forget that because we're not actively involved in it. We weren't there. And, you know, from my standpoint, thank God I wasn't there. Absolutely, yes. But for those that did, thank you for doing it. Mike Nanney, thanks so much for coming down here and sharing your story with us here today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. This is WCRS right here in Greenwood. Bye-bye, everybody.